Late one evening, a poor girl named Mira wandered into the dense forest near her small village. She was gathering firewood, as she did every evening, when she heard a faint groan from behind the bushes. Curiosity and concern led her to investigate, and what she saw left her stunned. A man, dressed in an expensive suit, lay on the ground, covered in dirt and blood. His leg was badly injured, and his face bore cuts and bruises. He looked weak, barely conscious. Mira, despite her own struggles, did not hesitate. She kneeled beside him and gently shook his shoulder. "Sir, are you okay?" she asked, but he could only mumble incoherently. Realizing he needed urgent help, Mira tore a piece of her old scarf and tied it around his wounded leg to stop the bleeding. She then gathered all her strength and helped him sit up, struggling to support his weight. Slowly, she guided him to her tiny hut on the outskirts of the village. Over the next few days, Mira cared for the stranger, feeding him simple meals and dressing his wounds. He was too weak to speak much at first, but as he recovered, he introduced himself as Aryan Malhotra, a wealthy businessman. He had been on a hunting trip when his car skidded off the road, and he had fallen down a steep hill, injuring himself. He had been lying in the forest for hours before Mira found him. Touched by her kindness, Aryan promised to repay her once he returned home. But Mira only smiled. "I didn't help you for a reward. It was the right thing to do," she said. A week later, Aryan was strong enough to travel. With Mira's help, he contacted his assistant, who came rushing with a doctor and security team. Before leaving, Aryan thanked Mira and gave her a small envelope, asking her to open it after he was gone. When Mira finally opened it, her eyes widened in shock. It contained a legal document transferring a large piece of land and a house in her name, along with enough money to ensure she never had to struggle again. Tears filled her eyes as she realized that her one act of kindness had changed her life forever. Mira stood frozen, her hands trembling as she stared at the documents. Was this real? Could a poor village girl like her really own land and a house? She had spent her entire life struggling for basic necessities. Never had she imagined such a miracle. Her neighbors, curious about the luxurious car that had arrived earlier, gathered around her small hut. When Mira told them what had happened, whispers of shock and amazement spread through the village. Some were happy for her, while others murmured that it was too good to be true. Days passed, and Mira hesitated to leave her simple home. She feared that all of it was just a dream and that she would wake up to her usual hardships. But one morning, another car arrived, and a well-dressed man stepped out. "Miss Mira?" he asked politely. "I am Mr. Sharma, Mr. Aryan Malhotra's lawyer. He sent me to finalize the transfer of your new home and land." Seeing her confusion, he handed her another envelope. Inside was a letter from Aryan himself. Mira. Your kindness saved my life. You never asked for anything in return, and that is what makes you special. This is not charity, it is my gratitude. You deserve comfort, safety, and happiness. Please accept this gift and build a future for yourself. I hope to see you again soon. Aryan Malhotra. Tears welled up in Mira's eyes. For the first time in her life, she felt valued, seen. She agreed to visit the property, and when she arrived, she was stunned. It was a beautiful small house near the town, surrounded by fields where she could grow her own crops. She would never have to go hungry again. Months passed, and Mira settled into her new life. She used part of the money to help others in her village, fixing the school, providing food for the needy, and offering work to those who struggled like she once had. Her generosity caught the attention of many, including Aryan, who visited one day to see how she was doing. He was amazed at how she had not only changed her own life but had also lifted her entire village. You are incredible, Mira, Aryan said, smiling. I came here thinking I helped you, but the truth is, you've taught me the true meaning of kindness. Mira smiled back. Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness can create the biggest changes. And from that day on, their friendship grew stronger. Arian continued to support Mira's efforts, and together, they transformed the village into a thriving community. Mira was no longer just a poor girl from the village, she was a symbol of hope, proving that kindness and selflessness could change lives in the most unexpected ways. As time passed, Mira's village flourished. With Arian's support and her determination, new schools, a healthcare center, and clean water facilities were built. What was once a struggling community had now become a thriving place full of opportunities. People from neighboring villages came to see the transformation, amazed at how one girl's kindness had set off a chain reaction of change. Despite her new life, Mira remained humble. She continued to work alongside the villagers, ensuring that no one was left behind. Arian, too, frequently visited, and their bond deepened. One day, Arian arrived with an idea. "Mira, I want to start a foundation in your name," he said. "A place where girls from underprivileged backgrounds can get education, skills, and opportunities, just like you deserved but never had." Mira's eyes widened. "A school, for girls like me?" "Yes," Arian nodded. "You prove that one act of kindness can change a life. Imagine how many more lives we can change together." Mira's heart swelled with emotion. Without hesitation, she agreed. Soon, the Mira Foundation was established, offering free education, vocational training, and financial assistance to girls in need. It became a beacon of hope for many, and Mira was celebrated as an inspiration. Despite their busy schedules, Mira and Arian's friendship grew stronger. Over time, Arian found himself drawn not only to Mira's kindness but also to her wisdom, strength, and selflessness. One evening, as they walked through the fields discussing future plans, Arian stopped and looked at her. "Mira, you changed my life in more ways than one. I don't want to just be your partner in building this village, I want to be your partner in life." Mira's breath caught in her throat. Was this really happening? The same millionaire she had found injured in the forest was now standing before her, proposing something she had never even imagined. She looked into his eyes, seeing only sincerity. A soft smile spread across her face. "Arian, I never thought my life would lead me here, but I can't imagine this journey without you." With that, their story came full circle, from a chance encounter in the forest to a love story built on kindness, respect, and shared dreams. Years later, their village became one of the most developed in the region, known for its education, healthcare, and community-driven success. People traveled from far and wide to meet Mira, the girl who had once been poor but had a heart richer than gold. And at every event, standing beside her, was Arian, the man whose life she had saved, and who, in return, had given her the world. As the years passed, Mira and Arian's journey continued to inspire many. Their love was not just a fairy tale but a testament to the power of kindness, perseverance, and selflessness. Together, they expanded the Mira Foundation, building more schools, hospitals, and women's empowerment centers across the country. Mira, now a well-respected leader, traveled to different regions, sharing her story and encouraging young girls to dream beyond their circumstances. Despite all the fame and admiration, she remained grounded, always remembering the days when she had to struggle for a single meal. She used her experiences to connect with people, reminding them that true wealth lay in the ability to give back. One day, Mira received an invitation to an international conference on women's empowerment. She was to be honored with a global humanitarian award for her efforts in transforming lives. The news spread like wildfire, and her village rejoiced. For the first time, their small community was being recognized on a global stage. As Mira prepared for her speech, Arian sat beside her. "Do you remember the day you found me in the forest?" he asked with a chuckle. She laughed softly. "How could I forget? You were covered in dirt, looking nothing like a billionaire." He smiled. "And yet, that day changed both of our lives forever. You saved me, Mira. Not just from that injury, but from a life that lacked meaning. I had wealth but no purpose. You gave me that. Mira reached for his hand. And you gave me the courage to dream. At the conference, when Mira took the stage, the entire hall rose in applause. She looked out at the audience, filled with world leaders, activists, and young girls who saw her as a role model. Taking a deep breath, she began. I was once a girl who had nothing but kindness to give. I never imagined that a simple act of helping a stranger would change my life forever. But that's the beauty of kindness, it has the power to transform lives in ways we can't foresee. Today, I stand before you not as a woman who was saved by wealth, but as a woman who used kindness to build a new future, not just for myself, but for many others. And that is the greatest gift of all. The audience erupted into applause, many moved to tears. As Mira stepped down from the stage, Arian was waiting for her. You were amazing, he whispered, pulling her into a warm embrace. Years later, when people spoke of Mira, they didn't just remember the poor girl who had found an injured millionaire. They remembered a woman who had turned her struggles into strength, her kindness into a movement, and her dreams into reality. And so, the girl who once wandered the forest in search of firewood became a beacon of hope for the world, proving that a single act of kindness can truly change everything. As time passed, Mira and Arian's impact only grew. Their foundation expanded beyond the country's borders, touching lives in villages, towns, and cities across the world. They built shelters for the homeless, schools for underprivileged children, and hospitals where healthcare was free for those in need. Despite their overwhelming success, Mira never forgot where she came from. Every year, on the same day she had found Arian in the forest, she would return to her village. She would walk the same path, sit by the same trees, and remind herself of the journey that had brought her here. It was a ritual that kept her grounded. One such evening, as she stood under the towering trees, Arian approached her, his hands in his pockets, a soft smile on his face. Lost in memories? He asked. She turned to him and nodded. This place, it reminds me that life is unpredictable. That a single moment, a single choice, can change everything. Arian stepped closer, taking her hands in his. And because of that choice, countless lives have changed. You turned pain into purpose, Mira. That's what makes you extraordinary. She smiled, leaning her head against his shoulder. I couldn't have done it without you. You could have, Arian said, chuckling. But I'm lucky you didn't have to. Their love had grown over the years, not as a grand romantic tale, but as a quiet, unwavering companionship. They had built not just an empire of kindness but a family of people who believed in their vision. Soon, they started training young leaders to carry their mission forward. Mira knew that true change wasn't about what she could do in her lifetime, it was about ensuring the next generation carried the torch. And so, they mentored hundreds of young women and men, teaching them not just to dream but to act. One evening, as they sat on the porch of their home, watching the sunset, Arian took Mira's hand. We've come a long way, he said softly. Mira nodded. But there's still more to do. He laughed. You'll never stop, will you? She grinned. Not until every girl like me gets a chance to live, dream, and achieve. And with that, their journey continued, not as a fairy tale, but as a never-ending legacy of kindness, hope, and change. Years passed, and Mira and Arian's work only grew stronger. Their foundation, now known worldwide, had transformed countless lives. Mira's name became synonymous with hope, and people from all walks of life sought her guidance and inspiration. But as their mission expanded, so did the challenges. There were people who doubted them, corrupt officials who tried to hinder their projects, and powerful figures who felt threatened by their influence. One day, Mira received an anonymous warning: someone was trying to sabotage one of their largest projects, a school for orphan children. Not one to back down, Mira decided to visit the construction site herself. Arian insisted on accompanying her. We built this dream together, and will protect it together, he said firmly. When they arrived, they found workers hesitant and afraid. Rumors of threats and bribes had spread, and progress had slowed. Mira stood in the center of the half-built school and addressed everyone. This school isn't just a building, it's a promise to the children who have no one else. If we stop now, we let fear win. But if we stand together, nothing can break us. Her words reignited their spirit. The workers returned to their tasks, stronger than ever. But the threats didn't stop. One night, their office was broken into, documents destroyed, and false accusations were spread about the foundation. The media, always hungry for scandal, began questioning their motives. Mira and Arian stood firm. Instead of hiding, they called for a press conference. Facing the cameras, Mira spoke with unwavering confidence. I started with nothing. No money, no power, just a heart willing to help. If you think lies and threats will break me, you underestimate the strength of those who have suffered and survived. We will not stop. We will not back down. This is bigger than me, bigger than Arian, bigger than any of us. This is a fight for every child, every girl, every forgotten soul. And we will win. Her words resonated across the country. Support poured in from everywhere. Donations increased, volunteers doubled, and even the most skeptical people saw the truth in her eyes. The ones who had tried to silence her faded into the background, their attempts to stop her failing miserably. The school was completed ahead of schedule. On the opening day, children ran through the gates, laughter filling the air. Mira stood watching, tears in her eyes, as Arian wrapped an arm around her. We did it, he whispered. She smiled. No, they did it. We just reminded them that they could. And so, their journey continued, full of struggles, victories, and the unstoppable power of kindness. Mira had started as a poor village girl, but now she was a force of change, proving that even the smallest act of compassion could create ripples across the world. Years passed, and Mira and Arian's legacy continued to grow. Their foundation expanded beyond borders, reaching places where help was needed the most. The name Mira Foundation became a beacon of hope, symbolizing resilience, compassion, and change. Despite their growing responsibilities, Mira remained as humble as ever. She continued to visit villages, meet struggling families, and personally oversee the projects that mattered most to her. She believed that true leadership was not about sitting in offices but being among the people. One day, while visiting a remote village where a new women's training center was being built, Mira met a young girl named Asha. She saw herself in Asha, the same hunger for knowledge, the same fire in her eyes. Asha hesitated before speaking. Didi, people say you were once poor like me. That you had nothing. Mira smiled gently. That's true. Asha looked down. Then how did you become this? Mira knelt to her level, taking her hands. By never giving up. By believing that kindness and hard work can change everything. And you can too. Asha's eyes filled with tears. But I have no one. Mira wiped her tears. You have us. And one day, you will be the one helping others. Inspired, Asha joined the Foundation's education program. Years later, she became one of Mira's strongest protégés, proving that one act of kindness could plant a seed that grew into something extraordinary. As time passed, Arian and Mira realized something. While they had built an empire of kindness, they had also forgotten to slow down and enjoy the life they had created together. One evening, as they watched the sunset from their home, Arian turned to Mira. We've spent our lives helping others. Don't you think it's time we also live a little for ourselves? Mira smiled, understanding his unspoken words. Are you saying we should finally take a break? Arian chuckled. Not a break, just a different kind of journey. We'll keep working, but maybe, we also start focusing on us. For the first time in years, they planned a trip, just the two of them. They traveled to places they had never seen, walked through quiet streets, laughed over simple meals, and lived in the moment. But even during their travels, they found ways to help. Whether it was funding a struggling school in a small town or secretly paying for a poor family's hospital bills, kindness was in their nature. One evening, sitting by a peaceful river, Mira looked at Arian. "Do you ever wonder, what would have happened if I hadn't found you that day in the forest?" Arian smiled. "I don't like to think about that. Because fate knew what it was doing. We were meant to find each other." Mira squeezed his hand. "And we were meant to change the world, together." And so, their journey continued, not just as partners in kindness but as soulmates who had built a life far greater than they had ever imagined. They had started as a poor girl and an injured millionaire. But now, they were something much more, a legacy of love, hope, and endless change. Years turned into decades, and Mira and Arian's legacy only grew stronger. The Mira Foundation had changed millions of lives, expanding into rural and urban areas, reaching those who had no voice, no resources, and no hope. Mira, once a poor village girl struggling for food, was now honored globally as a humanitarian icon. Awards, recognition, and even government honors came her way, but she never let them change her. She still walked the same dusty roads, still knelt down to speak to children, and still treated every person, rich or poor, with the same warmth and respect. Despite their impact, life had its challenges. There were moments of struggle, natural disasters that wiped out their projects, betrayals by those who sought personal gain, and times when exhaustion tested their spirit. But through it all, Arian and Mira stood strong together. One evening, as they sat in their home, looking at a wall filled with pictures of the people they had helped, Arian took Mira's hand. His hair had turned gray, and fine lines marked their faces, but the love between them had only grown deeper. "Do you ever regret anything?" he asked. Mira thought for a moment before shaking her head. "No. Every hardship, every struggle led us here. And I wouldn't change a single thing." Arian smiled. "Neither would I." As the years passed, Mira knew that true leadership meant preparing the next generation to carry forward their mission. She and Arian trained thousands of young leaders, ensuring that the foundation's work would not stop with them. One day, as they stood at the inauguration of a massive new project, the Mira Arian Academy for Change, Asha, now a grown woman and one of the foundation's brightest leaders, stepped onto the stage to speak. "I was once a little girl who thought she had no future," Asha said, her voice filled with emotion. "But Mira Didi and Arian Sir showed me that kindness is the most powerful force in the world. Because of them, I stand here today, not as someone who was saved, but as someone ready to save others." Tears filled Mira's eyes as she watched Asha speak. This was it. This was the legacy they had built. As the applause thundered, Arian whispered to her, "We did it, Mira." She squeezed his hand. "No, they did it." Years later, on a peaceful evening, Mira and Arian sat on their porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon. They had spent a lifetime creating change, but now, it was time to rest. Arian, his voice softer with age, looked at her and smiled. "Do you remember that day in the forest?" Mira laughed. "You ask me that every year. And your answer is always the same," Arian chuckled. Mira took his hand. Because that was the moment everything changed. As the stars appeared in the sky, they sat in silence, knowing their work was done. The world they had dreamed of was now a reality, and their legacy would live on in the hearts of those they had helped. And so, the story of a poor village girl and an injured millionaire did not end with wealth, fame, or power. It ended with something far greater, a lifetime of kindness, a world transformed, and a love that never faded. As the years rolled on, the world that Mira and Arian had worked so tirelessly to shape continued to evolve. Their foundation had grown into a global network, and the changes they had initiated were now a part of the very fabric of society. But even as the world shifted around them, their commitment to helping others never wavered. One day, a young woman from a small village came to see Mira. She was a passionate environmentalist who had heard about the work of the Mira Foundation and wanted to collaborate. Her name was Priya, and she shared a vision of sustainable farming, clean energy, and eco-friendly technologies that could change the lives of countless rural families. Intrigued, Meera invited Priya to meet with Aryan. Together, they discussed the possibility of expanding their work to address the growing environmental crisis. After hours of discussion, they realized that the next chapter of their legacy was about sustainability, ensuring that the villages they had helped could thrive, not just today but for generations to come. We've given people the tools to survive, but now it's time to give them the tools to protect the earth, Meera said, her voice filled with conviction. We need to ensure that future generations can continue to thrive in harmony with nature. Aryan, always supportive, agreed. We've built schools, hospitals, and communities. Now, we'll build a future that's safe for the next generation. And so, the Green Future Initiative was born. The foundation expanded its mission to focus on environmental sustainability. They launched programs to help farmers use sustainable agricultural practices, supported renewable energy projects, and began educating children in schools about the importance of protecting the planet.